trimethylene, trinitramine. And if you want a little chemistry lecture afterwards, I can tell you why this is particularly potent just from looking at the structure. But it is really nasty stuff. The combustion zone is moving at a rate which is about 22 times the speed of sound. It means that it breaks the sound barrier so many times. So it really hurts the ears. But it's very popular because it's cheap and it's sufficient effect. RDX is used as what demolition workers call beam cutters. And here you see two workers mounting such a set of beam cutters on either side of the steel beam. And already now we should recognize that an explosive works by means of pressure, by force. An explosive knocks things over. So what is happening here is when these charges goes on simultaneously, they make a cut on the beam at an angle of 45 degrees. Obviously with the purpose of having the beam sliding over to the side before it goes down. And if they have four beams side by side, they do the same thing on all four beams, so that the whole building actually is shifting from little to the side before it goes down. Now, somebody has found it noteworthy that steel beams cut at the same angle appeared at ground zero after the collapse. This is from the towers. And this picture is controversial because somebody says, well, this cut was done during the cleanup operation. And I have an old engineer in the audience a long time ago said, no, the worker would never cut a steel beam this way because it would take him 3 times longer than cutting it just directly. Which building is that? This is the towers. Because what you're seeing here, which means this complaint implies that this picture was taken late in the process, long time after 9/11. But the two gentlemen you'll see in the front here actually obviously are firefighters. And their presence indicates that this must be very early after the collapse of the towers. Please.
Sorry, there's a question.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, right there.
I got 2 parts.
Yeah.
One, firefighters, and other folks, I think that suggests that firefighters go to quite frequently on site. Well, the other part is, the one thing, only one beam that was coming for the room. How do you know that it wasn't, because obviously you've got to take it away. How do you know that they weren't just cutting so that they could get it to move the way?
I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm just pointing at this evidence. And as I have been told that this is you're perfectly right. But I've been told that the firefighters were allowed to look for the remnants of their colleagues until September the 29th. So I take this as an indication that this is an early picture. There are other pictures where you see the same, but it's not as perfectly correct as the other pictures which you've seen of angle cuts. It's not as obvious as this one. And also you can see eventually there's some molten iron, the occurrence of which down here may hint at this. But I'm not arguing against what you're saying. I'm saying this is a controversial issue. But I think it should be mentioned, and then everyone can make their own decisions with it. I certainly acknowledge what you're saying. Yes, please.
I wonder if there have been any analyses of the timing of explosive sounds as the Twin Towers or Building 7 came down, because the argument that we have explosives bringing it down should, I think, predict a different timing of a boom as compared to the whole thing coming down and hitting the ground.
Sound of explosions. Regarding the towers, because as you already have observed, and which will be evident also later on in my presentations, is the towers, the history of the towers and the history of Building 7, they're different. There's 2 different means of collapse. Now regarding the towers, when everything was finished, the fire chief of New York City called for all firemen and microphone. Please tell us what happened. Out of these 500 people, 118 told about explosions. Okay. And some of them even preceding, maybe Graham would make a comment on that, some of them preceding the collapse, but most of them, of course, during the collapse. Now, regarding 7, for once, those closest to 7 was half a mile away, and half a kilometer away. But even on this distance, there were reports of collapse. There were, preceding the collapse, during the afternoon, clear video evidence there was some explosions going on in the building. These are hours preceding the collapse itself. But it is true that there are much fewer witness accounts of collapse, of explosion sounds from 7 than there are from the town. 3, in a little while, I'll show you devices which can take down the building without making any noise at all. And again, you can have explosives which are very silent, real explosives, what we call molecular explosives, which does not make as much noise as RDX, as you see here. So we can discuss about this perhaps. Graham has a comment here.
Yeah, just a brief one. There are a lot of witnesses to explosions in the Twin Towers. And the figure of 118 firefighters who witnessed explosions comes from an article that I wrote in 2006, in which I read all the accounts of the 500 firefighters. So if you want to know how we arrived at the figure of 118, I would be happy to tell you later. Since then, I've continued collecting accounts, and it's now up to 155 eyewitnesses to explosions in the Twin Towers. And they're often massive explosions, and they're patterned explosions, and they're explosions which they clearly see taking down the buildings. So when it comes to the Twin Towers, we have tons of eyewitness evidence for explosive demolition. But as Neil says, 7 was taken down in a different way.
Thank you. Yeah, further questions, please bring them up. I think it's okay to let's take that Harold comes up.
You see, there's a handful of companies that are specializing to demolishing buildings, right?
Yeah.
Do you know which company leaves those kinds of signatures behind?
No. And those kinds of signatures behind it are also a questionable thing. The towers were 3 times higher than any building which has ever been demolished.
Has it ever been seen, this kind of signature of building being taken down?
Nope. Well, 7, obviously, was recognized by Daniel Winkle, but the towers came down differently, as you'll recognize in a little while. 7 is the classical control demolition. They're taking out the core columns from the bottom up, as he recognized immediately, Daniel Winkle. This is a control demolition. The towers is a different story. Now, before we start talking about explosives, I'll show you a little video of the tower, the North Tower coming down, being made by an American physicist, as I mentioned before, called David Chandler. This is a high school teacher and a brilliant such teacher. I wish I had him. He's very good at explaining things. What he's doing here is he's cutting out a sequence from the collapse of the North Tower and re-looping it all the time and wanting us to shift our attention from one feature to another. David Chandler.
Starting point in science is observation. What you are seeing here is what happened to the North Tower of the World Trade Center, second of 3 buildings to collapse on 9/11. I use the word collapse. Words can be deceptive. What do you really see happening here? There's a tremendous amount of falling debris. another wave of explosions much further down the face of the building under the canopy of falling debris. Notice that both waves of explosions progressed down the face of the building, nearly keeping pace with the falling debris just a few feet away. Slabs of concrete did not fall to the ground and smash to dust. There is almost no concrete in the rubble pile. Notice that the concrete is being forcefully ejected outward from the sides of the building already pulverized to dust. Notice that embedded in the dust clouds are huge girders and entire sections of steel framing that are being hurled out of the building. The horizontal speed of some of the girders has been clocked at over 70 miles per hour. Some of these girders impale themselves in the sides of neighboring buildings. Some landed as much as 2 football fields away from the base of the tower. What could hurl heavy girders with such force and give them such speed? Some people have suggested that the weight of the tower crushing down on the girders caused them to flex, and they sprung sideways by a spring action. But we are not seeing isolated jumping girders. We are seeing a major fraction of the mass of the building, steel, concrete, office furniture, and the remains of human beings, reduced to small pieces of rubble and fine dust, and being explosively ejected in all directions. Bone fragments were found on the roofs of adjacent buildings. The bones were not crushed in the falling mass, or they would have been trapped in the debris pile. They were pulverized along with everything else and blown out in all directions. The NIST investigators have claimed that the top section of the building above the plane impact point came down like a pile driver, crushing the undamaged lower section of the building all the way to the ground. The top section of the building is, however, noticeably absent. There is nothing above the ring of explosions except for a fountain of debris. Can you see a pile driver?
I think that the power we are witnessing here can only be explained by this. The gravity-only model for collapse of the towers, where the gravity is going downwards. What we are seeing here are steel beams between 2 to 30 tons being hurled upwards and like a spike going into adjacent